Welcome to Caleb Can't Read.
I'll keep doing it
I'm
as
Caleb
long
Terrence.
as I fucking feel like it.
I'm Jordan Rabel.
I'm Jordan Rabel.
All right.
Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
I'm Caleb Terrence. Been a while.
It turns out our schedule of just releasing whenever we feel like it will make this podcast have an episode come out about once a month. So we're not going to do that anymore.
Like twice a year, maybe. I feel like if we're going to follow the graph here.
We don't. It's not that we don't want to do this. It's just that our schedules suck.
The schedules suck, and I live like a half an hour away from you as opposed to 10 minutes now.
Yeah, and you have a fucking arduous job that it's like, well, I could do it tonight, or I could be well rested for my dangerous job. And then my fucking schedule is like alternating. So it fucking sucks.
It's really just like,
I hate everything.
Not being 10 minutes down the fucking street anymore.
God.
Really sucks.
Yeah,
but
my liver is better for that.
There's that, for sure.
My health issues, whew, boy,
the silver lining, yes.
Weird.
But as it pertains to our listeners, Jordan.
We'll do better.
Yeah. Maybe, what did you want? You said twice a month? You want to do twice a month now?
Well, every
once
other
a
week,
month.
pretty much.
Okay. All right.
Because that's how my schedule opens up my time, basically, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, I just felt like I don't know. This is good though. I'd rather do what we just did than be releasing like weekly, but not having.
Yeah, that was tough because boy, did I was pumping out scripts like.
Yeah, you were pumping out scripts like you had to, like it was your job. And you know what comes with a job?
Money,
not caring. Okay.
It also
not
brings
great.
money, and boy, did I wish that we were being paid.
No, we weren't.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm not gonna. But we learned a valuable lesson out of this. We're not going to work as if we're being paid.
Yeah, because we're not. What
Exactly.
Don't fucking say we. I did that the whole time. You learned a fucking lesson out of this. Finally.
Have you learned nothing?
I've been trying to tell you that shit we've been doing this like 2 fucking years. The whole time I've been like, Jordan, we're not getting fucking paid. Jordan, we're not going to get fucking paid. Jordan, calm the fuck down. Nobody gives a goddamn shit about this. Like, fuck it. Stop it. Stop applying a weird work ethic to this. It doesn't matter. Like,
Osamu Dazai was popular for doing what kind of novels, Caleb?
Fucking depressing ones.
No. Come on. What type of
novels? iNovels.
See, so you did learn something.
You picked the one fucking thing I remembered out of all of this. All that stuff about H.P. Lovecraft I already knew because it was really funny.
You hear about his dog?
His dog?
It's even worse.
What do they call his dog?
Oh my god, dude, don't even get me started on the iguana.
You think the N-word's bad.
Well, my segue actually has to go with a correction from our last episode.
Oh.
What
did we even do in the last episode?
It's Rudyard Kipling.
The last episode? Is this a part 2?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, dude. I don't I have no idea what we just went. Do you have a summary or something?
Yeah, a small one.
I think
it's fine.
Oh, man. I had no idea. Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
All right, so listen. So he did that one short story, that one poem called Danny Deaver, and it was based on guys who, in the army, they hated their fucking superior officer, or is that the correct army term?
I don't know, dude.
Who cares?
It's fine.
So they drew cards until one of them got the ace of spades, and then that guy had to go put a bullet in his head. And you, for some reason, were on this kick that's what Motorhead thought of. You were like, "Oh, weird, dude. I'm
really piecing together why I don't remember this now." Like, fuck.
Well, it actually comes in a can and is currently in front of you. But
oh yeah. All right, my bad. So we just put that out there for the world.
I looked it up, like, hey, maybe he's right for some reason. No, that song's about gambling. The Ace of Spades is about poker.
Yeah, the fucking but are they not gambling except with putting bullets in heads?
There's no connection. What the fuck?
What are you talking about? Okay, no. I make sense. I actually
Let's
remember
get started,
shall we? I will die on this hill.
You're gonna die in a tree.
Maybe on a hill.
Maybe in a gutter.
Ow! Maybe in the ambulance. Who knows? Maybe in the hospital.
It won't be in an old folks home.
With my luck, probably not quickly.
On our last episode, we went over the beginnings of Rudyard Kipling's career, his success as a short story writer, his humble beginnings as a poet, but his utter failure as a novelist. But in 1894, huddled in his Vermont home during
You just jumped right into that?
Yeah, this is just to pick you up.
You wouldn't even give it like a quick little, okay, well, here we go. Like, that's like a normal...
I didn't want to segue too
like it's
hard
gonna literally the way you did that, it's gonna literally seem like you just edited in a chunk there where you started talking. And that is goofy. You're a goofy boy. Do not start it over. Do not hit that button. Okay, I'm sorry. Please forget I said anything.
But in 1894, huddled in his Vermont home during the brutish winters, Kipling would go on to make himself a household name with The Jungle Book. The stories that composed the first Jungle Book were printed in various magazines between 1893 and 1894 before being composed into a single volume with illustrations done by Rudyard's father, John Kipling. And some of these stories are borrowed from much older Indian tales, which Kipling was actually quite upfront about. He wasn't plagiarizing. Now, the Jungle Book begins with a story called Mowgli's Brothers. It starts with a pair of wolves furious to learn that the old tiger, Shere Khan, is hunting in their territory, because if he were to kill a man, as he sometimes does, then he will bring the people with the fire and the guns to their jungle. But when the wolves hear something approaching their den, they find not Shere Khan, but a naked man cub that the wolves decide to adopt. Following close behind is indeed Shere Khan, who demands that the wolves give the human child...
Hey, give me that baby!
But the wolves deny him, and Shere Khan leaves angry and foreboding. Due to his hairlessness, the wolves decide to name the child Mowgli the Frog. And by the way, almost all the animals in the Jungle Book are named their respective Indian translations. So Bagheera is a panther, and it means panther in Indian. Baloo is a bear, it means bear, and so on. But apparently Mowgli was just completely made up by him. And Mowgli is supposed to rhyme with cow, like Mowgli, according to Kipling. But that's not the way Papa raised me.
This guy named everything... He named his characters like Pokemon.
Yes.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call him fucking Mowgli. That's stupid. That sounds stupid. Mowgli.
I mean,
no.
it's fine.
No, it's Mowgli.
Why would you think I was suggesting that?
How dare you?
What the fuck, man?
Anyway, at the next big meeting between all the animals of the jungle at Council Rock, the great bear Baloo says that he'll raise the child, along with the panther Bagheera, who buys Mowgli's life with a bull corpse. Bagheera used to be a king's pet before he ran away, so he knows what it's like to be neglected, and wants Mowgli to not meet the same fate. And together, Baloo and Bagheera raise Mowgli for about the next 10 or 11 years, all while keeping the tiger Shere Khan away from him. But as Mowgli grows, his adventuring keeps him further and further out of the line of sight of both Baloo and Bagheera, and closer to Shere Khan's grasp. But
the further you go for masturbation privacy...
I mean, it's probably a good thing, No,
but now there's a tiger.
Man, it's kind of like masturbation in real life.
No, dude, this isn't a Harry Palms thing. There is a real legitimate tiger. You need to stay here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm just going to go out to that hill over there. It seems like a cool, seems like a pretty cool hill. No, don't. Yeah, there's bushes. Ah, man. Gonna go check the berries over in there.
No, dude. Nope. It's not a privilege you get.
You masturbate in front of your parents like the rest of us.
I'm a bear, dude. I don't give a shit. Okay? I don't even understand what's happening right now.
I was born with hairy palms. I don't know. But regardless of being raised by animals...
No way. That's like the only part of them that doesn't have hair.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. But regardless of being raised by animals, there is one thing that puts Mowgli above the rest. His bravery of fire. Whereas the other animals are afraid of it, Mowgli is the only one...
Do you think bears have weird little red dicks like dogs?
Yes. Cool. Mowgli is the only one that can wield fire without fear. So one day, knowing full well that Shere Khan will come for him, Mowgli goes to the nearby village to steal a pot of burning coals. Sure enough, Shere Khan soon begins to stalk Mowgli, who at the final moment burns a stick till it becomes a burning hot flame and drives Shere Khan away.
He burns a stick until it becomes burning.
What? It's a pot of coals. He doesn't stick it in a fire. He just puts it... What? Fuck you. You know what, man?
Okay, dude.
While he is victorious, the animals of the jungle see this not as a triumph, but as the final sign that Mowgli has indeed become a dreaded man. As such, he is ordered to
Okay,
leave
next
the
time I'll
jungle.
just die from the tiger, you fucking
I know,
assholes.
right?
Like, okay, cool, my bad. Like,
So he leaves the jungle, but as he does so, Mowgli vows to return, and with Shere Khan's skin upon the council rock. Most of the stories in the Jungle Book take place between Mowgli's time arriving in the jungle to his leaving the jungle, like little intermission stories. But there are some, like the story of the White Seal, about trying not to be killed by Russians in the Bering Strait. That doesn't take place in the jungle at all.
okay,
It's just its own fucking
that got
thing.
crazy.
Yeah, no, it's just its own little
Or it would have been
thing.
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the most famous of the non-Mowgli tales is the account of Rikki Tikki Tavi. There's not a Gunga Din type situation. It sounds weird and racist. It won't be. This is
No, I remember the weird weasel story.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Inspired by a story from the Panchatantra, an ancient book of Indian fables, the story is of the titular mongoose, Rikki Tikki Tavi, named so by the sound of his chittering. The mongoose is saved from drowning by an English family living in India, and afterwards he's kept as a lookout for their English home, keeping cobras at bay, more specifically the cobra couple Nag and Nagina. The cobras wish to drive the family from their home so that they may give their hatchlings in the garden room to grow. Nag, the male cobra, waits in the family's bathroom to strike at the father of the household, but Rikki Tikki Tavi gets there first, biting down on the cobra's head and holding him down. When the father of the house sees what's happening, he blasts the snake away with a fucking shotgun.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it's different in the Chuck Jones thing.
I'm really glad that Rikki Tikki Tavi doesn't understand just how lucky it is he didn't get blasted by that.
What's a boomstick, Dad?
What's buckshot?
The next day, in retaliation, the other cobra, Nagina, corners the family on their veranda as they have breakfast.
I thought they were like, I seem to remember some kind of cartoon featuring this, or
Yes.
weren't they like
We'll
trying to eat a
get
baby
there.
or something?
Yeah, we'll get there. Ricky, meanwhile, he's busy finding and breaking the eggs that Nagina has in the garden. But when he sees the family cornered by the snake, he brings the last egg to her as a hostage. When she runs away with the egg, Rikki Tikki Tavi follows her to the underground lair, where he soon emerges victorious with Nagina dead. And he keeps the family safe forevermore. You've probably seen the Chuck Jones 1975 animated short before. As it turns out, Orson Welles fucking narrated that, apparently.
Sick.
Yeah. You see the outtakes of him like drunk as shit trying to film that commercial?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You're the greatest. Oh, fuck.
He's so fucking drunk. God bless him.
Yeah. Yeah, you fat piece of shit.
My hero. The chronological ending to Mowgli's tale comes with the story Tiger in it. Mowgli goes to the nearby village after his expulsion from the jungle to try human things. But he's still only like 11 at this point, so the villagers just see this kid wander in from the jungle with no education on how things are done.
Is he nude?
Yeah.
No education, dick out.
Does this sound like your childhood?
Shut up. God damn it. You bastard.
How'd you find him? I think that fucking bearded kid just came out of the fucking woods.
I was found by a pack of feral lesbians and raised as one of their own.
It's not as good as you would think.
They clothed me in their finest flannel. And I still only wear boots.
Don't you want to take your shoes off? Get a little comfortable? No, the boots stay on. Well, a couple who coincidentally... God damn it. A couple who coincidentally lost their son around 11 years ago decide to take Mowgli in, who also coincidentally looks a lot like their long-lost son. So, anyway, Mowgli tries his best to be a part of the village, but he can't quite get the hang of things. They try to have him herd buffalo, but he's not really into it, basically. One thing Mowgli notices, though...
Herd buffalo? Oh,
yeah,
right. I was thinking fucking bison. That was wild. what was going on in my head there for a second.
Basically the same, aren't they?
No. They're the weird, like, no, they look crazy different, dude. What are you talking about?
Oh, well, I guess so. Never mind.
Because there's like a buffalo and there's a fucking bison. Yeah. Wow, that was the dumbest fucking way I possibly could have made. Okay, but can we move along, please?
Can you tell me more about the
No,
differences?
Dude, I really don't.
The name?
One's all fluffy and thick, and one looks all, like, not so fluffy and longer.
But also thick?
And its horns go more out of the side. I mean, it's a thick boy, but not as thick. Like, bison's a thick boy. You know what I mean?
I feel so bad for your teachers.
They don't have to deal with me anymore.
You caused their problems. Their addictions are your fault.
Jordan, they failed me. Okay?
I was that child left behind. I am still waiting for Superman.
They had to throw that weight overboard.
One thing Mowgli notices, though, is the village's constant fear of a tiger that haunts them nearby. Supposedly, the person who kills the tiger will be given 100 rupee reward. Now, Mowgli couldn't care less about the money, for he knows that this tiger can be none other than Shere Khan. Well, one day, one of Mowgli's wolf brothers calls to him from the edge of a forest. He says that Shere Khan plans on making his killing move on Mowgli, and that he's been lying in wait in a nearby ravine. So what Mowgli does is herd one half of the buffalo.
Did you ever go over why the fuck Shere Khan gives a shit about Mowgli this much?
At this point, it's just a point of pride. It's like, I was denied my meal, basically.
Okay, I get it. All right.
So what Mowgli does is herd one half of the buffalo to one end of the ravine, and his wolf brother brings the other half to the other side. And trapping Shere Khan in the middle, Mowgli and his brother cause a head-on stampede with the buffalo, crushing Shere Khan to death, and more than likely causing the death of a few cattle as well.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more death in this book than there was in the movie. So I'm pretty sure that was fucking part of it.
It's super wild he didn't just, like, fucking shoot him.
Who, Mowgli?
Yeah.
I guess he didn't know that guns existed. Probably. I don't know. I mean, giving an 11-year-old a gun sounds like a more American thing to do than some village in India that probably knows better.
Well, they had to have, like, guns and shit. Like,
yeah, they did for sure, but, he's still a child.
Maybe not something they could put... Yeah, why wouldn't they have something they could put down a fucking tiger? Mm-hmm. There's fucking tigers there.
Yeah. No, and that was the whole point of the 100 rupee reward, is they're like, somebody's got to shoot this fucking tiger, Mm-hmm. Well, one of the local hunters of the village, he sees Mowgli cause a stampede, and he goes to chastise Mowgli for being reckless with the cattle, not realizing that he's just killed the dreaded Shere Khan. But once he sees Mowgli skinning the tiger, he demands he hand it over to him so that he can cash in at the reward. Mowgli tells the guy to go fuck off, and when he starts to accost Mowgli, the wolf starts growling at him. And seeing that Mowgli is a friend to the wolves, the hunter runs back to the village and starts a riot, stating that Mowgli is a shapeshifter. Mowgli and the wolf are run back into the jungle.
They're like, yeah, I knew something was going on with that kid.
Yeah, just like, oh, that's it,
They're like, we don't take kindly to shapeshifters in this town.
There's one thing I fucking hate more than tigers. Shapeshifters.
I'll dust off the shape-shifting equipment. We're going to deal with it. We got another one.
If it was that easy, like, I probably would have just, like, I don't know, killed something else and been like, here's your tiger. Like, no, Jordan, that is a bird. No, shapeshifter. The tiger was a shapeshifter all along. Saw it happen. Give me money.
This enrages the idea that, like, he can shift shapes, and that enrages the community. Like, to the point of a riot. Actually, I like these people a lot. They
don't like shapes.
No, Jordan, no. There are people that do not fucking tolerate furries. All right?
Wow. So Mowgli and the wolf are run back into the jungle, where Mowgli then splays Shere Khan's skin across the council rock, as he said he would, and dances upon it, while the animals of the jungle come together. They see that they were wrong about Mowgli and beg to take him back, but Mowgli says that he will only ever hunt with the wolves from now on, and will eventually grow up to join civilization.
And we were really worried about you when you were, like, throwing the fire around and everything. But now that you've killed an animal, we're super not worried about you being a person.
Oh, man, he killed my cousin. That's so cool of him. So, as I mentioned before,
They made a display of it, which is something that none of us understand.
Oh, just dancing on a corpse, huh?
This is just
That's
fluid
real cool.
and pelt to us. And meat. Like,
I had no idea that was what was inside one of us. That is, whew. Let's bring him back before we make him angry. So, as I mentioned before, there are actually 2 Jungle Books, plural. The second one is a lot like the first. Some Mowgli stories, some non-Mowgli stories, a poem or 2. One of these poems is actually the origin of the phrase, the law of the jungle. But there's one story in it about these ferocious wild dogs that end up killing Mowgli's wolf father. And these dogs are called dholes. But the way it's spelled, my mind keeps wanting to call them D-holes, which I guess they are, but it's spelled D-holes. See that? It's dholes. It's like the dreaded dholes. The D-holes. Well, anyway, I had to throw that out there. Well, anyway.
wait, like...
What?
Like a urethra? Or like...
Yeah.
Or
like a dick
or
hole.
like a space that you put a dick?
I mean...
Like, what's going through your head when you hear D?
Honestly, a urethra could be one and the same.
No.
Yeah.
That's not how it... That doesn't fit there, man.
It can.
It can't. Are we gonna
I've got more things to show you on the internet.
We're gonna look this up later, dude.
Oh, I know for a fact it can.
Shit, dude. That's not
So,
good.
yeah, the sounding community gets way out of hand. So, let's move on.
Now hit it with a rod.
Really just hammer that bad boy in there.
Don't use that phrase.
I really like the cone-shaped ones. Anyway, the thing I want you to remember is that... like a railroad spike.
I want to go home.
The thing I want you to remember is that The Jungle Book and its sequel are much darker in tone than what people realize. Like, they're still kids' books, but the difference between saying that a tiger ate a monkey and having a kid, like, imagine it versus actually showing them that on screen is going to make for some difficulties later on down the road when a certain film studio tries to adapt the book. For instance...
Who might that be?
Fucking Jon Favreau. For instance, in the second Jungle Book...
Fucking who?
Come on, it was a Marvel joke. He's like the guy that heads all of the Marvel movies.
What the fuck are you talking to me right now? Like I should know this. Like this is common fucking knowledge.
You were catching Pokemon before this. Don't act like you're better than me.
I'm not acting like I'm better than you, motherfucker. I'm just asking why you're acting like you're better than me and being like, why don't you know who the fuck John is? Like, he's the fucking Marvel fucking... Fuck you. No. Why the fuck would I know that?
So
why is that relevant to me catching Pokemon, Jordan?
I'm going to move on. You know?
Is it because you're full of shit? Okay, cool. Move along.
So anyways, there are some scenes that are going to make it hard to adapt this to screen. For instance, in the second Jungle Book, Mowgli has finally had enough of those villagers and just causes an elephant stampede to destroy the village and crush it so finely it looks like the village was never even there. So... So yeah, the books are pretty fucking dark, but I mean, you can read them like the age bracket for the reading level.
Fucking
it's
incel
low.
Mowgli.
Oh, and there is this one story about animals employed in the army, and they're talking about their favorite riders, and they keep bringing up this one soldier named Dick. Quote, "I can trust Dick. You could put a whole regiment of dicks on my back without making me feel any better."
I spit on you. I'm sorry.
It makes me want to run when I haven't dick on my back. Anyway, that was a hard...
What do you mean anyway? This is a gold mine.
Dude.
How deep does this vein go? Brother.
What vein?
See? It doesn't stop.
No, I had to move past it.
Why, dude?
This is
What
going
the
to become
fuck?
so long. No, so...
Oh my god, pause!
No.
Please!
No, I promise. That's the most... Those are the best parts of it.
Okay.
They're the best parts. So, yeah, that one, I had to pause a couple times.
That's about as far as I'm going without a dick on my back, okay?
Fuck. You put a whole regiment of dicks
Just
on
want
there.
one solid, just... Place it on there, brother.
And by the way, there are people who try to find evidence of Kipling's imperialist views in all of his works, and it's never been confirmed that the animal species are supposed to represent anything other than animals. Frankly, I don't think Kipling was really an allegory kind of guy. He would just say stuff if he meant it. So, For what it's worth, the Jungle Book is safe.
That's Jordan's stance here on Caleb.
That is my stance. It's a really good book. Go read it. Right. Now, the Jungle Book, published in 1894, and the second Jungle Book, published in 1895, both by Macmillan Publishing, made Rudyard Kipling a name that would never wear thin. Everyone knows the fucking Jungle Book, and I wouldn't say it's just because of the film either. The influence the Jungle Book had made, it's always been massive. It even kickstarted a whole genre of feral child books. Edgar Rice Burroughs' character Tarzan was directly influenced by it. And if you'll remember, Rudyard Kipling wrote at a mile a minute, just constantly publishing short stories and poems. He had an extremely fast turnaround rate. But with these two books alone, he wouldn't publish anything for another 4 years, which is like a lifetime for him. But he did take time to adapt the Jungle Books to a stage play called The Jungle Play in 1899. Ultimately, though, it never premiered.
At least it wasn't called The Jungle Book Play.
That doesn't roll very well. So while I don't have the numbers in front of me...
Why not just The Jungle Book?
So that people know that when they're going to a theater, they're going to see a play. And not just a book?
I don't know. They were going to the fucking see a play if they're going to the theater. What the fuck? Like,
well, that's certainly The Jungle Book on a stage. This is not what I thought it was going to be. Yeah, I don't know. He wanted to spell it out.
Does it move?
I can't believe I paid $15 for this, whatever that may be.
That's
for inflation.
Like $1 million right now, or something.
He's just in the background cackling, like, yes. So, well, I don't have the numbers in front of me. Motherfucker got paid, and it seemed like Kipling enjoyed his short retirement. Arthur Conan Doyle, author of Sherlock Holmes, pulled the same shit that Kipling did to Mark Twain and just showed up at Kipling's house to talk shop. They had a good time, apparently, and Doyle introduced Kipling to golf. And it turns out that Kipling really, really loved golf. In fact,
weird how that fucking happens to people, man.
To rich white men?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to afford it, but I mean, I suppose it could happen to anyone.
It's, you know what? I do find golf like fascinating from a technical standpoint, that you are hitting something very small with a stick, making it go hundreds of yards, and you can actually get it in a tiny hole from that far away. That's incredible. God fucking damn, is it boring to watch. Holy Jesus.
I want to let you know something right now. You set a pretty high bar for this, for the duration of our relationship, which has been a long time, and that was one of the whitest fucking things you've ever said.
I'm quite proud of that. In fact, due to the harsh Vermont winters, Kipling tried to invent a new form of snow golf, where you use a red golf ball in the snow, and it didn't really take off.
That's not legendary mode.
He said, quote, "Not altogether a success because there were no limits to a drive. The ball might skid 2 miles down the long slope to Connecticut River." And I doubt you'll remember, but at one point, Arthur Conan Doyle actually wrote a play about golf with J.M. Barrie, author of Peter Pan. So I like to think that Doyle just went around introducing golf to people. And yes, at one point, Rudyard Kipling was even one of the many revolving members of J.M. Barrie's cricket team, the alllall Berries. You remember that?
Holy fuck,
He was a member.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Oh, wow, you guys really got a powder keg of racism, huh?
Wow, don't run for office. Ever. That ship has sailed.
This tweet won't affect me. Now, for whatever reason, by the time he was 30, we haven't even gotten to 30 years old yet.
Yeah, we're never going into politics either after this. Jesus Christ.
Tell me how you really feel about the Dominican Republic. Now, for whatever... I had that pointed out to me today that's apparently in Central America. I didn't know that.
Jesus, Murph.
Now, for whatever reason...
The worst thing about this podcast is, like
content?
Yeah, well, aside from that, trying to talk down to me like you're not also a fucking idiot.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It gets us in some murky places,
I'm just
man.
fucking... I'm right there. I'm right there, but I hold that dick higher in a metaphorical way.
You just happened...
I can't form the words. Now, by the time he was 30...
No, you can read.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but you're not...
Ongoing joke.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you're not steering this boat in great directions a lot of the time. Just saying.
I can't steer a boat. By the time he was 30, in less than 4 years of marriage, Rudyard and Carrie just sort of got tired of each other, but like in a weird way. It's not like they argued. Well, him and his wife. Oh. It's not like they argued or hated being around each other or anything. They did their obligation of being around each other, just not talking. Like, they both thought that their duty to one another was to be within close proximity, so they just did that.
They just hung around each other silently?
And just silent, yeah. Regardless...
Okay, they were on the spectrum.
Regardless, their second child, Elsie Kipling, was born on February 2nd, 1896.
Did they get divorced?
No. That just wasn't a thing to them. They were just like, nah. I don't know, man. They just didn't care for whatever reason. And really, it seemed for a bit that...
As good as it gets. As good as it gets. All right.
No point in trying any harder with anyone else.
You having a good time? No, but I don't want to roll the dice again. Right now, we're in just a neutral zone, and I'd like to stay there.
God, this reminds me of my childhood. And really...
I wish it reminded me of just my childhood.
It seemed for a bit that this would... Oh, God. Oh, that crept up on me.
Feel better?
No, worse.
No. Do you need a moment? How you doing?
I'm fine.
Sweetie? You good?
It seemed for a bit that this would be the rest of Kipling's life. He even took up a teaching position for a short time at the Bishop's College School in Quebec. But in 1895, there was a small dispute between America and the United Kingdom over the exact borderlines of Venezuela and Guyana, two places that neither America nor the United Kingdom should have a say in. But regardless, the dispute almost put America and England on the brink of a war, and Kipling felt that anti-British sentiments were directed at him in his daily life in Vermont. Now, was it just paranoia? Probably. But it was Carrie's shitty brother, Beatty, that was the final straw. He was the one who actually sold them the land they were living on. And while he sold it cheap all those years ago of his own volition, he was now feeling like maybe he got stiffed. Now, it's important to mention that Beatty was a drunk and belligerent asshole. Well, one day, when he saw Kipling in town, he came up to him and started threatening him. Specifically, saying he'd kill Kipling and his whole family by blowing their fucking brains out, like children included. And naturally...
Whoa!
Yeah. Yeah. You know when you're just doing one of those things where you're like, you try to... It's a little slip of the tongue where it's like, I'll fucking kill your kids. Damn it. I meant to say...
Oh, shit,
I meant to say credit, not debit.
I'm just a passionate guy.
Yeah.
I just get a little wound up.
Sorry, I'm a little hot-headed. No, you said you would murder his family. You know where they live.
You said you would murder his children. You said you would go to your house, load up your shotgun with double lot, and bring extra ammunition, slam through the door, and then murder his family.
You talked about burning the crib. Yeah, it's one of those things. Well, naturally, Kipling called the cops and Beatty was arrested. However, although he tried to get it done discreetly, the news of famous British author Rudyard Kipling's family troubles started showing up in the newspapers. And before Beatty's criminal trial could even begin, the Kipling family moved to Devon, England. But Rudyard felt squished in a home he didn't design like the one back in Vermont, and he wanted to go back. On August 17th, 1897, the Kiplings had a third child, their only son, John Kipling. Now, while Rudyard was back in England, and perhaps due to a sense of patriotism after what he felt were attacks on him by the Americans, he started writing more and more imperialistic poetry for publication in magazines. Specifically, one he wrote for Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee in 1897 called Recessional. That just means it's her 60th birthday. That's a Diamond Jubilee.
What?
I don't know. They're British. They have different terms for numbers.
That's so goofy, dude. Like, what the fuck?
How long should I set this timer for? 1 Diamond Jubilee, please. Oh, yes.
It's so silly. It's so whimsical.
About a half past the cricket. What the fucking what?
Dude.
In fact, the poem has a couple of lines that say things like, "Such boastings as the Gentiles use, or lesser breeds without the law, and for heathen heart that puts her trust in reeking tube and iron shard." He's basically outlining that the Brits have to deal with lesser races, and boy, I sure hope that doesn't become our downfall.
Oh, shit. Okay, so now I get why there's more questions about the the animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had some pretty strong.
Because this dude went like straight eugenics just here.
Yes. But here's the thing.
Wait, what time is it right now?
1897.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, we're getting spicy. How old is this guy?
About 30.
Ooh, fuck.
Yeah.
Ooh, shit.
I know.
He'll be in prime tear shit up ability when they're, when we start getting a little spicy.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Oh,
now,
fuck.
As a matter of fact,
never mind. Go on.
So this whole thing, recessional, this poem, he's basically saying like we have to deal with the problems of dealing with all these lesser races, and like hopefully this doesn't come bite us in the ass eventually. Like he even says, "Lest we forget," like 8 times in the poem, which is saying, hey, look what happened to places like the Kingdom of Tyre or Rome when they let outsiders in. And unfortunately, lest we forget has been in continued use since then. Sometimes used correctly.
Oh.
Sometimes used correctly by people who are quoting the Bible, where Kipling tore the quote from, in saying, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here, all empires crumble. That's what it's supposed to mean. But of course, there are those who say, lest we forget, in the way Kipling meant it, to say some pretty racist shit. So it's a really hard divide there because they're both quite influential.
Hey, that's a good dog whistle to know, though, right?
Yeah, know.
If somebody's like, lest we forget, like fucking side eye real quick, like, shit, like
just you a Christian, John? No, hard atheist. Oh, a little weird then. I don't know, man.
It's like,
yeah. We also have that warning out for if anyone mentions the day of rope, that came from a Nazi. Like, now the poem "Recessional" instantly became hailed as a great nationalist poem, and it led to Kipling being called Poet of the Empire, a title which he held extremely dearly.
This took a turn.
Yeah. And when and Mowgli, no, when his family began having yearly vacations in South Africa, he was greeted by English politicians with whom he quickly became friends. 3 guesses what kind of politics they had. Now, in 1899, South Africa was found to have quite the gold deposit, which was great news for the South African government. But, oh, wait, all of a sudden England is claiming South Africa as their land. That's weird.
Weird.
So, as a little backstory to this, what happened was that, like, in 1840, like fucking 60 years before, the Dutch showed up to South Africa and enslaved these people called the Boers. Boers, Boers. But then the Boers escaped to the other side of the country, and the Dutch tried to...
Sure you're saying that right?
No. And the Dutch tried attacking them to force them to come back, like, to slavery. But the Boers held off the Dutch until they basically said, okay, you can have our old land, just leave us alone on this side. And I think the Boers saw how industrial their enemies were and just didn't want to push it, But now...
Well, they just didn't think it was worth it to lose more people at that point. They're like, fine, take the chunk.
Yeah.
I don't want to kill any more people.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
But now, 60 years later, there's a bunch of gold discovered on Boer land, and this time the British are attacking in what would be known as the Second Boer War, the first one having happened earlier. Kipling would even pen the inscription on the memorial for this war later on. Now, Kipling had actually written a poem that was originally going to be for Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee instead of his poem Recessional. However, he went with the aforementioned because he thought it fit the situation better. But now, with these Boers being all uppity with their gold, when the English just want to help them with it, Kipling felt...
This is literally just random shit in the ground to us.
Kipling felt there was no better time to release another poem that I've unfortunately heard quoted by my uncles. The White Man's Burden.
Uncles. Those wacky uncles.
What things come to mind when I say White Man's Burden to you, Caleb?
Tiny penis.
Pretty much covers it. Now, I don't find it too important to read you the whole thing, but the gist of it is that it's actually a service for white people to take over your land and finally get you civilized. Whoa. Like, it's hard work being white, but someone's got to do it, But here's just the first couple stanzas to give you an idea. Quote, and this is a quote, not me, Jordan Rabel, saying it, but a quote.
Not a quote of Jordan Rabel, but a quote of shithead white guy.
Yeah. Take up the white man's burden. Send forth the best ye breed. Go... Hey, don't look at me like that. Dude. Hang on.
God, I just don't like the words. Like, you may not have fucking written it, but you're saying the spell. Okay?
My mustache is getting longer. What's happening?
This is fucking...
Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need, to wait in heavy harness on fluttered folk and wild. Your new-caught sullen peoples, half devil and half child. Take up the white man's burden, in patience to abide, to veil the threat of terror, and check the show of pride, by open speech and simple, and 100 times made plain, to seek another's profit and work another's gain. The poem was actually written in...
Yeah, hold the fuck up. Wait a minute. Yeah. You had family members that recited this? Are you fucking kidding me?
Not recited the poem,
but mentioned it?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Jesus, dude.
We don't talk to them. The poem was actually written in response to the Philippine-American War that same year, but with all these ungrateful savages the world over, he figured it can kind of take place anywhere, you know? As a matter of fact, the line "new caught sullen peoples, half devil and half child" is specifically talking about Filipinos.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
With the publishing of the poem on February 4th of 1899 in London through the Times, and a day later in America in the New York Sun, it was during a senatorial debate in Washington a mere 2 days later in which Senator Tillman of South Carolina read the poem aloud in front of the rest of Senate, as well as President McKinley. Quote, "As though coming at the most opportune time possible, you might say just before the treaty reached the Senate..."
Please don't do that with that mustache.
Why
you're wearing white?
Where's my cowboy hat? "Or about the time it was sent to us, there appeared in one of our magazines a poem by Rudyard Kipling, the greatest poet of England at this time. This poem, unique, and in some places too deep for me, is a prophecy. I do not imagine that in the history of human events any poet has ever felt inspired so clearly to portray our danger and our duty. It is called The White Man's Burden. With the permission of senators, I will read a stanza, and I beg senators to listen to it, for it is well worth their attention. This man has lived in the Indies. In fact, he is a citizen of the world, and has been all over it, and knows whereof he speaks."
Fuck, this is like quoted?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was way too well written. I mean, you're like,
fuck you, get out! Now, believe it or not, Senator Tillman was actually trying to...
terrible point, obviously.
Yeah. Well,
I was impressed with you for a moment there before it, the gears clicked, and I was like, yeah, no, Jordan didn't write that. No.
Well, believe it or not, Senator Tillman, he was actually...
That was gripping.
He was trying to keep the U.S. out of the Philippines because, according to him, quote, "Those peoples are not suited to our institutions. They are not ready for liberty as we understand it. They do not want it. Why are we bent on forcing upon them a civilization not suited to them, and which only means, in their view, degradation and a loss of respect, which is worse than the loss of life itself?" So he was just like, why are we bothering with these savages when, like, it's going to kill people? It's going to kill Americans. Like, I don't care if they die, but it's going to kill us, you know? The senator...
Did he make leaving other countries alone and not being imperialist racist
yes.
somehow?
Exactly.
What an amazing man. Wow. He's just like, no, you need to know how to talk to these people.
Oh, the smartest man in
Apparently
South
it's like the fucking colonel.
That's all I am. In my mind, it was somewhere between Foghorn Leghorn and fucking Daniel Craig from Knives Out. Well, the senator was ultimately unsuccessful.
Wait, no, let him talk. Wait, hold on.
He was ultimately unsuccessful, however, as that same day, America paid Spain $20 million for ownership of the Philippines, as well as Guam, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. I own you.
Wait, we own the Philippines?
No.
They
won independence.
Okay, cool.
By, living there and having a system of government and...
Hey, don't stop paying us. We're not gonna...
The White Man's Burden itself was, of course, celebrated by the entire Western world. I saw far too many political cartoons from this time period when I was doing my research, of Uncle Sam carrying a basket of the worst caricatures you've ever seen, like on his back as he's like walking up a hill, and it says, the white man's burden. You know, like there are far too many political cartoons.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but although Rudyard Kipling rose in popularity as the white man, his old buddy Mark Twain wasn't a fan of this new stuff. I'm going to be sad when we eventually do an episode on Mark Twain because he has to have done something shitty. I mean, he's from that time period, but everything I read about him just makes him cooler. So anyway, he was largely anti-colonial, and in response to the white man's burden, he wrote an essay called To the Person Sitting in Darkness, which basically calls people like Kipling out. Fun fact, do you know who Idi Amin was? He was the Ugandan dictator in the 70s. Killed a bunch of people. Anyway, he apparently once forced 4 British guys to carry him through the streets of town, and Idi Amin was like, "Hey, this is the new white man's burden, am I right?" I do like that. I thought that was pretty funny. Horrible dictator. Massive monster, but that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's going to be a burden carrying these nuts.
Well, the Kiplings had a brief vacation in New York where both Rudyard and his youngest daughter, Josephine, contracted pneumonia. And I don't know if you know this, but back then, everything was put in the newspaper. Everything. So not only was it reported that Rudyard Kipling had pneumonia, but they reported what hotel he was staying at as well. So people waited in the fucking cold outside his hotel.
That's a terrible fucking idea.
I know. Well, it led to more articles when, somebody with a vendetta would be like, as he learned at 2175 Everett Street from our newspaper. So they all waited out in the fucking cold in New York just waiting to hear that he died. Because
we're going to fuck him up.
They had nothing better to do.
That was you, bitch.
Yeah, no, I know. Hang on. This is important. Wife? It is.
It's important.
Yeah.
More important than the podcast.
Everything.
Your wife?
Your wife, you fucking dork. But whereas Rudyard would make a full recovery from his pneumonia, Josephine would sadly die on March 6, 1899 at just the age of 6. Once he was better for travel, Rudyard Kipling took the rest of his family back to England and never set foot in America again. Later that year, from December of 1900 to October of 1901, McClure's magazine began publishing the chapters of Kipling's
And at least we
next
threw
book.
him out.
He left.
Yeah.
Of his own volition.
Due to pressure.
No. What?
Yeah, well, weren't a bunch of people waiting outside the hotel?
Yeah, just to see if a famous guy died. They loved him.
Oh, I thought they were happy about it.
No.
I assumed they were happy about it because he was racist, but I was being very optimistic. Excuse me, please proceed.
In 1899, Caleb?
I thought they were like, yeah, fuck you. Dickhead.
So McClure's magazine began publishing the chapters of Kipling's next book, simply titled Kim. The story is of a young boy named Kimball O'Hara, the orphan son of an Irish soldier stationed in India. Living in the streets under the hot Indian sun, it's sometimes hard to tell with his harsh tan and Indian accent that little Kim was indeed born white. Now, the story itself takes place about 15 years earlier than it was written, in 1885, during what was called the Great Game, which was a little Cold War between Britain and Russia as they fought for land among the Middle East, as if no one already lived there or had their own system of government. Well, one of Kim's only friends is this man named Mahbub Ali, a horse trader who is also an informant for the British Secret Service. Well, one day, Kim bumps into a Tibetan monk who is out in the world seeking enlightenment. Now, Kim is a seasoned liar. He is able to come up with the lies extremely quick. And when someone calls him out on it, he can just as quickly cover his ass. And that's pretty much what he does with this Tibetan monk, figuring that he could just move himself up in the world if he's with this guy who apparently gets given food and money by locals for no other reason than hanging around. Now, the monk is looking for enlightenment by wandering up the Great Trunk Road, which in real life is one of the oldest roads in the world, going from the top to the bottom of India, and has even been mentioned in ancient Buddhist texts. Well, Kim gets the monk to agree to allow him to come along, and as Kim tells his friend Mahbub Ali about his new adventure, Mahbub Ali sees this as the perfect opportunity for Kim to deliver a message for him to British intelligence upstate. While on the journey, a regimental soldier bumps into him and finds that Kim's wearing the same Masonic necklace that used to belong to a comrade he once served with. Turns out this soldier used to serve with Kim's dad. The soldier accosts the monk and Kim, asking Kim a series of questions, which he doesn't know the answers to since he was orphaned young, but true to his talent, just starts making shit up. And in his make-believe stories, the soldier finds that Kim could, quote, lie like an Oriental, which takes some skill, apparently. The soldiers find documents on the kid.
I respect it. Oh, wow, that's a wild ass.
I don't know. It's a great compliment. You should tell somebody that sometime, you know? Well, the soldiers find documents on the kid proving his lineage and want to do right by his old teammate's kid by sending him to a school where he can learn to be a British spy. Now, Kim is torn between every kid's dream of being a wanted man and the relationship he's developed with the monk. But he does ultimately decide to become a spy. Throughout the years, Kim continues to message the monk, falling further into friendship. Eventually, Kim is put under tutelage of another spy named Sahib, who runs a jewelry shop as a front. In training Kim's cognition, they practice at a game that is eventually in history called Kim's Game. So this is basically it. If I were to take a bowl with a bunch of random shit in it, like 20 things, and I put the bowl out in front of you, you try and know as much as you can about those things before I cover it up and take it away for you're able to look at it for 30 seconds. And then I'll question you a bunch of things like what was the serial number on that box or something like that. And it's just all cognition shit.
Gross.
Thinking? The reason Kim's getting trained like this is that as a spy, it'll be important for cognition when passing by a target and being able to tell everything about them. Their shoes, their clothes, how they speak, if they're left or right-handed, that kind of thing. And he's being trained along with this other kid who doesn't really speak, but he's like a little psychopath who keeps trying to kill Sahib, the teacher. I like him. So after 3 arduous years of training, Kim is now a secret agent. His first mission takes him to the Himalayas to intercept information from Russian guards. But while he's there, Kim finds his old friend, the monk. His untimely arrival puts both of them in danger, and through Kim's intellect, they escape the Russians and complete their mission. For Kim, he delivers the intel, and for the monk, he achieves enlightenment after years of searching. Kim is often regarded as Rudyard Kipling's lesser-known masterpiece. And although the book has always been well received, it continues to be questioned as to whether it can be considered a children's novel or not. Because while Kipling does write in a simplistic manner, the book is a geopolitical thriller. And I don't know, I don't think it's too violent for kids or anything. I just don't think they'd care about the politics. So, no. I do recommend it to adults, though. Well, either way, references to the novel...
You can't recommend that to anyone.
Because it's boring?
No, because it's the fucking white man burden guy.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
The Jungle Book is good. And there's no mention of, anything weird or lying like an Oriental or anything like that in there. You know? It's just about cute animals that kill each other. Anyway. Well, either way, references to the novel are actually everywhere if you look hard enough. There's even a town in Colorado that named itself Kim after the novel. And in 1963, there was a Soviet spy that had been selling British intelligence to the motherland for fucking years. His name was Harold Philby, but he liked to be called Kim. He let people know he was a spy in their fucking faces.
Call me Lil Kim.
In fact, Kim received an uptick in popularity in the advent of the 1979 Afghan-Russian invasion. Apparently got mentioned a whole bunch of news reports like, this is just like Kim, a book from fucking 100 years ago. I don't know why people would somehow be like, oh yeah. And actually, Kim helped pave the way for a man named Robert Baden-Powell to create the Cub Scouts. Yes, Rudyard Kipling is inadvertently the reason I cried every Wednesday in first grade.
You were in the fucking Cub Scouts?
Mm-hmm. I just didn't want to become a weeblo, so I was like, I'm not down with that name. So
Become a what?
That's the next step. After Cub Scout, you become a weeblo.
Weeb is in the name?
Yeah. I was more concerned about the wee blow.
Yeah, definitely.
Portion, but you're like,
so there's a group of children called Weeblo?
Yeah.
and nobody like that just ran through. People were just fucking stamping that like.
Oh hell yeah, man! Yeah,
you're gonna call them weeblos?
Yeah, I was okay after the first year. I was
Is there some kind of explanation for this? Surely people have asked.
What, as to the name?
Yeah.
Well, actually, as a matter of fact, many names from the Jungle Book are evident in the Scouts, including the pack leader being called Aquila, which was the name of one of the wolf parents.
Oh, okay.
So, right. Yeah. It's all just Rudyard Kipling
How
fandom.
deep did you go into Scouts?
Just the first year.
Okay.
It was a bunch of parents that didn't want to be there, but their kids were like, we got badges. And it was like,
yeah,
I faked a whole bunch of badges and had my parents sign it. So that if you got like 20 things written down in this book or whatever, like build a birdhouse, go fishing or some shit like that, you would get a badge that had a panda on it. And I really wanted it.
Yeah. I didn't do any of that.
Yeah. Well, you actually kind of grew up in the orphan boy landscape.
No, actually. It was mostly just because they didn't like gay people.
That's ironic.
My parents had a bit of an issue there.
But, man, it's kind of funny because, I mean, the Cub Scouts are just like the Vatican, you know? We don't allow gay people. Not up front, you know?
It's such like a bullshit fucking excuse when you like catch a bunch of people diddling. You're like, oh, I bet it's because they're gay. It's like, no, dude. No. Well, no. This is about you.
Now, whatever research Kipling did for Kim put him in the path of Buddhism. And as it turned out, Kipling fucking loved Buddhism. I don't know if this totally changed his views on how much of a racist he was, but all of a sudden, when the Germans started attacking China in 1902, Kipling wrote several opinion pieces on the Kaiser being a piece of shit.
The Germans attacked China in 1902?
I guess so.
Why did you state that like it was common knowledge?
No,
I mean, maybe it is common knowledge, but we're fucking idiots.
No,
but, like, I don't.
That's all that you need to know about it because I didn't research into why. I don't give a fuck.
I don't. Okay.
They attacked him. Everyone was attacking everyone back in the day. It didn't. Who cares?
Yeah.
But as a matter of fact, it was one of these pieces that Kipling wrote about Germany that led to Kipling having the first recorded usage of the word Hun for the Germans. So yes, he created yet another slur. You see, Kipling was fine.
It's not a slur if it's for white people.
Fuck you.
It's fine.
Kipling was fine with empires, but he hated authoritarianism for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, he hated fascism. He just... I don't know. It's weird.
He hated fascism. He's just responsible for some seriously fascist rhetoric.
Exactly, yeah.
He's not a man of consistency. A hypocrite, if you will.
He's a pretty consistently good poet, really, if you don't mind the
I meant morally.
subject matter. I know.
Yeah.
That's not what we're here for, Caleb. There's a literature
What the
podcast.
fuck else are we here for?
In 1902...
Okay, my bad. I'll just listen. I don't, fucking...
Shut the fuck up, Caleb. Why are you here? In 1902, the Kiplings bought and moved to a historic house built in 1634 called Bateman's. Why that? Come on, really?
I'm sorry. I'm in a mood.
They bought it for £9,300, a little over $1 million today. And although it had no bathroom and no electricity, Rudyard was in love with the place. He would live here the rest of his life. That same year in 1902, Kipling would release a collection of children's tales called Just So Stories for Little Children by Macmillan Publishing. Sadly, these were the stories that Kipling would tell Josephine at bedtime before she died. And the stories had to be told just so, basically the same way every time or the kid would complain. And the stories are just tales of how, animals came to be. You know, how the camel got his hump, why kangaroos jump, shit like that. And these are very cute little stories that, of course, have become bedtime classics. And in time, the book has become yet...
Kids are fucking weird, man.
They just like to watch and read the same shit over and over again, you know?
Man, I can't fucking sleep. Talk to me about kangaroos again.
They drown dogs? Why are you crying? Well, in time, though, the book became yet another Kipling classic. For whatever reason, though, the USSR have been really into these stories. During the 1930s, they kept making animated shorts based on the book, which is funny because motherfucker hated communists, of course. In 1901, the Nobel Prize had been established, and in just 6 years, in 1907, the Nobel Prize for Literature had its first English recipient, 41-year-old Rudyard Kipling. Believe it or not, he's actually the youngest recipient of the prize to date, 41. Now, Kipling was known to not accept awards. He even refused knighthood, all because he didn't want to be used by any political party to show that they're good people by awarding him. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like how George Bush gave the Medal of Freedom to Harper Lee. You still killed a bunch of Iraqis, you know? He basically didn't want that, you know? But the Nobel Prize he accepted used the money to make a garden at home. In receiving the news of his award a year prior, Kipling published...
How much fucking money do you get for a Nobel Prize?
Nowadays, you get $1 million.
Okay.
I don't know about back then.
So, I mean...
Probably not a lot.
What?
It was only 6 years in.
The fuck was the garden?
I'm
assuming it's still a lot.
Yeah, actually...
Like, this is like a rich people suits thing, right?
So so I saw the property when he first bought it. There's a lot of land around it. Okay. Like, so, it used to be an old mill, like, with the fucking water wheel that turns.
Why do you know all this and nothing about Germany attacking China in 1902? You suck at learning things, man. You fucking suck at giving me information that I give a fuck about. You know that?
What if I said that it was... what if I just gave you an answer to appease you?
That would be fine.
Slavery.
What?
Slavery.
That Germany attacked China in 1902 because of slavery is the best you got.
Yeah.
You're not smart enough.
It was
to
actually
fuck with me,
about states' rights. No.
What?
Anyway.
This is bullshit. I'm leaving and Googling this because I'm interested.
In receiving the news of his award a year prior, Kipling published a short story collection called Puck of Pook's Hill.
It was on a fucking mill. Sorry.
I didn't invite you to be a bitch, you know?
You kind of expressly did.
In 1906, so he releases Puck of Pook's Hill, and in celebration of actually receiving the award a year later, published a poetry collection in 1910 called Rewards and Fairies by Doubleday, Page & Company, which contained Kipling's most famous poem, If, which I will read to you in its entirety.
If I wasn't racist.
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings, and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
I heard that in the Live, Laugh, Love font.
Well, guess what's kind of synonymous with it, you know? It really is. It is an inspiring poem. It is good, and I mean it is good. But
maybe it just wasn't. What's the word for present? Maybe it just wasn't.
Presentation was.
Yeah,
was off.
Maybe that was off for me because it didn't do it for me.
Well, you can listen to Michael Caine.
Maybe I'm just in a mood. Yeah, I'm just in a mood.
Being a little bitch.
Yeah, I'm a little spicy right now, man. I want to get going. I want to go have my day, and you're here reading fucking dipshit poems to me.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Now let's go over the.
No, it's
the
not
themes.
a dipshit poem. I'm sorry. It's
no, let's go over the themes.
Cool.
Tell me what motifs. No, I'm kidding.
What is a motif? I have a question. I have a question for you as well, sir.
Oh, philosophical. I mean,
I don't know what that word means.
You can read Michael Caine read it on fucking YouTube. You know, it sounds nice. But as inspiring as that poem is, I find it important to let people know that Kipling wrote it back in 1895 in dedication to Sir Leander Starr Jameson, a man who worked for a mining company.
What a fucking name.
Starr with 2 R's. And when that gold was found in the Boer lands of South Africa, Sir Jameson failed to make an uprising among the British workers on a poor attempt at a takeover. So really, this poem was to inspire others not to be disheartened when you fail at attempting to take over another country's property. However...
Yeah, it's on brand.
Yeah, I am happy to say that Rudyard's parents, John and Alice Kipling, were able to see their son's success peak at this point, as Alice passed away on November 22nd, 1910, at the age of 73, and John earlier the next year on January 26, 1911, also at 73. Kipling's popularity only grew as time went on, so much so that his friend, Max Aitken, a politician who would later produce aircrafts for Churchill during World War II, personally asked Kipling to meddle in Canada's 1911 elections. You see, Canada wanted...
How?
Well, Canada wanted to basically lower restrictions with trading to the United States and heighten restrictions with Britain, which, I mean, yeah, Canada flew under the Union Jack at the time, but at this point, America was a huge producer of everything, and it honestly would have been great for Canada had they done this. Like, it's a lot easier to drive it across the border than ship it a month over sea, you know?
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's imaginary line versus very real ocean.
Like sharks. But with one swift letter from Kipling basically calling Canadians idiots if they were to do this, which was printed over and over again in the national newspaper, the election swiftly swung to the Conservative Party, who heightened restrictions with America and lowered them for Britain. This drummed up...
Trade on what, like lumber?
Huh? Whatever. You know, I mean, it's cold up there. Whatever they need, produce, shit like that, would have been much easier to get from America, and it would have probably made them a lot more money. But anyway, this drummed up huge anti-American rhetoric in Canada, while the Conservative Party ran the slogan,
And no one cared.
No. Here's the slogan. You're going to like this. A white Canada. Warning of America's disgusting melting pot culture and the possibility that non-whites would soon invade Canada if they weren't careful. All right? Lest we forget.
Aren't there already a bunch of French people up there?
Are they non-white?
They're kind of greasy.
I mean, they suck. I don't know.
They're definitely the shittiest of white people, and that's a high bar.
Actually, just as a side note, the guy that asked Kipling to do this, Max Aitken, so he was the Minister of Aircraft Production during World War II, and he once asked the public to send in their iron pots and pans so that they could make Spitfires, but that turned out to be bullshit. He was actually just seeing if he could get people to do it, which is really fucking mean.
What is a Spitfire?
It's an aircraft.
Oh.
He was like, we got to make fighter planes. Send me all of your fucking pots and pans so we can melt them down and do shit. And people did it, and he was like, ha ha, I did it.
Nice pots, loser.
Just sends them back with a note. This sucks.
Can't use them. They suck too much.
This isn't even properly seasoned cast iron, dumbass. No, I don't know. I don't know if Kipling was asked to do the same thing here, but he soon found himself meddling in the upcoming elections on whether or not Ireland could declare itself a free country, what would have been called Home Rule. Now, the bill would be passed in 1914, a few years later, but in 1911, Kipling was doing everything he could to bash the Irish and make it known that these savages could never rule themselves. In his multiple writings on the subject...
Damn, Kipling, to your own kind.
He wasn't Irish.
To the other white devils.
He's just from the same island, you know? Dumbass.
It's a very small area.
I know.
They don't even... Dude, I just did the 23andMe. They don't even bother breaking up that whole area.
Oh, really?
No. They're just like British, Irish, Scottish. So genetically, they don't want to differentiate.
I could see some like Irish.
I would never bring that up to someone there.
Yeah, I could see I could see like an Irish or Scottish person getting the 23andMe results and just fucking just.
Yep, from here.
In his multiple writings on the subject, Kipling wrote that the Irish were cattle thieves and killers. And when someone asked him about the multitudes of poets that came from Ireland, he said, yeah, they have to be, because God has, quote, deprived them of love of line or knowledge of color, basically saying that the Irish were only smart enough to know how to rhyme, but they could never write a novel. He even wrote a poem about his Irish hate called Ulster, which was read by anti-Home Rule party leader in front of a crowd during a demonstration where the largest Union Jack ever made was unfurled. This is the dumbest fucking thing. And yes, he did go to Ireland to see if it would change his mind. Basically said that while the country was very beautiful...
No, he's just doing it performatively to, like, double down, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he basically said that while the country was beautiful, it was ruined whenever an Irishman came into view.
Isn't it really rainy with, like, no trees?
Yeah, but it's beautiful, lush green hills.
Grass?
Yeah.
What is it with you people and fucking grass?
I like grass, man. The bigger the lawn, No, lawns are stupid. I come from the dirt. I love the dirt.
Okay.
Rudyard Kipling's continuing political poems led him to the British government asking him to produce propaganda during World War I, which, remember, Kipling was already anti-German, but now he was able to run rampant. Kipling said of the Germans, quote, "There was no crime, no cruelty, no abomination that the mind of men can conceive of, which the German has not perpetrated, is not perpetrating, and will not perpetrate if he is allowed to go on. Today, there are only two divisions in the world, human beings and Germans."
What time period was it?
1911.
Wow.
Yeah. World War One. So
World
I mean,
War
he was.
One, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, goddamn, dude, he even made like, I don't know, some white hate sound really fucking racist. Like, and by the way, the biography.
This dude hated.
Oh, he hated a lot. The biography of Kipling that I read was like, it wasn't propaganda. It was just speeches for the Conservative Party, as if that's not propaganda. Anyway.
Wait, no. It wasn't propaganda. It was just a long-form definition.
Yeah, exactly.
Of propaganda.
This isn't propaganda, but let me tell you what it sounds like. Yeah. Anyway, he was also strongly against anyone who didn't sign up for the military during these trying times, saying, quote, "What will be the position in years to come of the young man who has deliberately elected to outcast himself from this all-embracing brotherhood? What of his family? And above all, what of his descendants? When the books have been closed and the last balance struck of sacrifice and sorrow in every hamlet, village, parish, suburb, city, shire, district, province, and dominion throughout the empire." It's just a long way of calling you a pussy, basically.
Yeah, I mean...
Now, if you'll remember, Rudyard Kipling had a son, John, who was now at the almost enlisting age of 16 when the war broke out. Well, not wanting to be a hypocrite and not wanting to sign up with the military himself, Rudyard forced his son to enlist with the Navy.
Get in there, kid.
But was rejected due to his severe short-sightedness.
Actually, we got plenty of people on the boats. We're going to need you to get in that trench.
A lot of people don't know this, but yeah, you do go on land as well in the Navy.
Yeah. We're fighting each other in Europe right now, and there's not a lot of ocean in here.
Yeah, but he got rejected because, of the gig lamps.
The what?
The gig lamps, the glasses that his father wore.
Oh, okay.
He had the same short-sightedness. So he forced John to enlist in the army, where he was also rejected. But instead of saying, "Well, we tried," Rudyard Kipling instead pulled his political influence onto Lord Roberts, who at this point was long retired, but still had immense influence as one of the greatest...
Look, man, I can get your kid in, but he's not going to be able to see still.
Yeah, no, but this guy, he was one of the greatest British generals that ever lived, at this point at least. But he was so old, granting John Kipling into the army was literally one of the last things he ever did. He died on November 14th, 1914.
Fuck it, I'll be dead soon.
Yeah, he died, and then John Kipling was commissioned as a second lieutenant to the Irish Guards just a day later, on November 15th, and just 2 days shy of his 17th birthday. Now, John was sent to France in August, and by September 25th was at the Battle of Loos, a fight which would last 2 weeks and end in German victory. John was last seen rushing a German position with a head injury and never seen again. Gone at 18. John's body wouldn't be uncovered on the battlefield until 1992.
What's his family going to think? Oh, yeah, he didn't have one because he fucking died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't even be uncovered until 1992. Like, they really thought, like, I don't know. There was actually a movie about John Kipling made in 2007 called My Boy Jack, where Daniel Radcliffe plays John. Anyway, both Rudyard and Caroline searched for a month in various field hospitals before giving up. And all it took was a dead son for Rudyard Kipling to realize how stupid war is. What's kind of neat, though, is that while Kipling was in France looking for his son, he met a French soldier who showed him his copy of Kim, Stop the Bullet on the Battlefield. It's kind of neat, It's like, oh, cool, my son's still dead. Well, when he asked to write a short epitaph for his son's regiment's grave memorial, Kipling simply wrote, quote, if any question why we died, tell them because our fathers lied. Oof. Rudyard...
A little bit of the space.
Yeah. He would assuage his grief by reading Jane Austen aloud to his wife and daughter. Whatever helps you move on, man.
Dad, stop yelling Jane Austen at me!
Verily! No! Now, the death of John was largely the beginning of the end of Kipling's career, which is kind of a good thing considering one of the only stories he wrote by 1920 since then was this weird fucking story called Mary Postgate, where this woman is a middle-aged virgin taking care of this old lady, and then the Germans bomb the city, and not only does the old woman die, but in the wreckage, Mary Postgate sees this dead little girl as well. And she sees this German plane crash, and when she gets to the wreckage, the pilot is still alive. Well, instead of getting him a doctor, she grabs a pistol and holds him there until he can slowly die. And when he does, she comes. That's not a joke.
You didn't need to do that. She could have just killed him.
Yeah.
Or just tortured him, even. Why do you have to edgelord it up like that at the end? Like,
and she nutted.
What the fuck, man?
I think he was going through some things, you know. As much as Kipling scholars want to just forget this story since it's so fucking weird and awkward, they can't. Because it's one of Kipling's best character studies. So if someone says, well, Kipling wasn't very good at writing characters, then the scholar would say, Mary Postgate is actually a great study of the human psyche. You mean the one where she comes by watching someone die? Yeah, the one where she comes by watching someone die, you know? It's
What's going on? Do you hate women? Like, what's happening here?
It's so unfortunately one of his better written tales.
Like, what the fuck, man? Like,
in 1920, Kipling created the Liberty League with his friend H. Rider Haggard, the author of King Solomon's Mines and Alan Quatermain, and 100% will be an episode we do in the future. Alan Quatermain was Sean Connery in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That was his character.
Ever watched that fucking movie, dude?
Oh, it's so bad. I tried to popcorn flick it. I was like, okay, I know I've seen this once and I hated it, but what if I watch it for fun? You know, what if I know it's shitty going in? I couldn't finish.
It's so bad you can't even watch it because it's bad.
It's so fucking bad.
That's bad.
You know, Sean Connery is still alive, very old, and that was his last role. He's going to die with that movie being his last role.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah. Doesn't that suck? Wait, he's still alive, right?
Yeah, I think so. You gonna Google that? No. He's alive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Keep talking about it like I'm not looking it up. Hang on.
Yeah, he's alive. Probably still hitting his wife.
Oh shit! No, he's dead.
He's dead?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. October 2020. Okay.
Oh.
That was his last movie. You know.
Damn. Well, I mean, it's not. Let's not act like it's fucking tragic. The man was fucking rich as hell.
Yeah, and I hear he was kind of a piece of shit too. So.
What, you hear? No, there's the interview with him talking about hitting women.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it's just him speaking with fucking with a woman and fuck, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I can't remember her name.
He's the Charles Bukowski of television.
No, you've never seen that video. He's low key threatening. Mm-mm. He's low key threatening and when they've given the woman the last word.
Jesus Christ.
And she won't let it be the last word.
You know, he's not really a Bob Ross, Mr. Rogers type image where it's oh, I sure hope nothing gets uncovered in them doing something shitty. Now, fuck him, dude. Who cares? It's just Sean Connery.
I know, but
James Bond movies suck. Anyway, the league's...
Highlander's fucking sick, though.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. That is good bad.
So anyway, Kipling created
weird fucking accent.
He created the Liberty League, and their goal was to stop Bolshevism. Kipling had seen the Stalinists rise to power in 1917, and he was just not about it. Obviously, the League failed pretty hard at stopping it, and it was dissolved a year later. Now, a part of me thinks that they quit early on because at least one of the guys that backed the Liberty League, his signature is on their initial declaration and everything, was a British officer named George Clark. And while Kipling was himself a racist and anti-communist, he was also, to his credit, not a fascist and not an anti-Semite, which were two things that George Clark absolutely was. Oh. George Clark had actually created one of the most famous anti-Semitic pamphlets of the early 20th century called The World Jewish Problem.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so it dissolved pretty quick. Now, like I said, Kipling, while a racist asshole, was not a fascist. though if you have an older edition of his books, usually before 1930, you will notice that they were adorned with a gold stamp showing an elephant holding a white lotus flower and a swastika.
Oh.
But remember, he grew up in India, very much self-identified as an Indian, and although he didn't live to see Hitler start World War II in September of 1939, Kipling did see the signs when the Nazis rose to popularity in 1930. And they were just pretty much a small fucking political party at that point. Not wanting to be associated with that, Kipling had the swastika removed from his book designs.
Wise.
Yeah. It's not like Nazis won't just, pick up Kipling now, but okay, he actually wrote very little in the 1930s. The stories were a lot darker than what he usually wrote. A lot of themes of death and mental illness are prevalent, which kind of started with Mary Postgate. But outside Germany, Kipling seemed to be the only guy worried about the Nazis, and that's what he spent his remaining days occupied with. He spent the last years of his life giving speeches on the dangers of Adolf Hitler to mostly deaf ears. He was the fucking whistleblower on that. The Kipling's only surviving child at this point was Elsie, who married a British
I
diplomat.
don't know how to feel about this man.
I know, right? Well, I feel like his son's death definitely changed him. I wouldn't say that he stopped being a complete piece of shit.
It'd be super sick if it didn't take your kid dying for that.
Yeah, I know, right? But I mean, for some people, it's like, not until it happens to me do I understand, And he was like, wait a minute, war's bad. He knew war was bad from his son dying, which he didn't see before. He really thought war was for the greater good.
Whoa, this hurts people!
Yeah. What do you mean he's dead? You could die. I thought, where's his paintball gun? Like, no, he's a fucking idiot. But, yeah, so nobody really knows, because he stayed extremely quiet after this point. He, published very few things, but he was fucking, soft-spoken for the rest of the time, and nobody knows what his thoughts on shit were, so it's all conjecture, honestly. The Kipling's only surviving child at this point was Elsie, who married a British diplomat named George Bambridge on October 22nd, 1924, when she was 28 and he was 31. Apparently, when they married, Kipling was filled with, as Elsie put it, something like despair. But Rudyard... Yeah, good for you. But Rudyard was still a constant visitor to their estate. In fact, his last outing was to visit his son-in-law George on January 11th, 1936, to tend to him as he lay in bed with bronchitis. Just a day later, on January 12th, John Rudyard Kipling suffered a hemorrhage in his small intestine. He was rushed to surgery, but died due to a perforated ulcer a week later on January 18th, 1936, at the age of 70, at Middlesex Hospital in London.
Like that happens?
It just happens. Bodies suck, I mean, you've heard of aneurysms, right? It just happens.
Think it can happen to your tummy?
Basically, yeah. Well, one of the pallbearers
I'm scared now.
You should be more worried about falling from a great height, really. I mean, well, one of the pallbearers at his funeral was...
Why does everyone think I'm going to fall? I'm not going to fall. True. I'm going to get hit by something, or get cut by something, or get pinned by something.
More than likely, you'll actually not... It won't be the fall that kills you. It's going to be you swinging into another tree.
It's going to be something. It's going to be me doing something really fucking stupid. I'm not going to fall though.
Oh man, I'd be so proud if your death went viral. I want you to know that if you swing into a tree and fucking die, it was me that put the George of the Jungle music in there. Well, look out for that tree. Just breaks your neck.
How'd he die? He flew 80 feet, from the tree. No, he was on the ground, dude.
He fell into the wood chipper. So, anyway, one of the pallbearers at Kipling's funeral was the Prime Minister, as they were actually cousins, since the Prime Minister's mom was one of the McDonald sisters, just like Kipling's mom was. Remember, they were those ladies that, just fucked famous people, basically. Mm-hmm. Rudyard Kipling was interred in the Poets' Corner of Westminster Abbey, started by Chaucer, and buried alongside Charles Dickens. The books he was writing on his life, called Something of Myself, was published 1 year later in 1937. Just a few years after Kipling's death, on December 19th, 1939, Caroline Kipling died at the age of 76. Their daughter Elsie's husband, George Bambridge, died on December 16th, 1943, from unknown causes at the age of 50. Now, there was a renowned writer named Frederick Smith, who had worked on famous biographies consisting mostly of British politicians, and for some reason, In the late 1940s, Elsie Kipling commissioned Frederick Smith to write a biography of her father. Now, the deal was that Elsie would retain control over its contents, the copyright, and 2/3 of the profit, but do none of the work. But Frederick Smith still said fine and got to work. Now, I don't know how long he worked on this, but when he eventually turned his manuscript over to Elsie, she just up and refused to have it printed. And I mean, I'm sure the guy was pissed, you know? I mean, when you look at the series of events for his books to get printed, it looks like they took about 5 to 6 years of research for him to produce. So I'm sure he wasn't very pleased. Well, Fred was younger than Elsie and knew that if she died, he'd be able to get his work back. So he waited. Unfortunately, Elsie outlived him. Frederick Smith died in June of 1975 at the age of 67, while Elsie herself stayed widowed and childless until her death on April 24th, 1976, at the age of 80.
Yeah, it's not a good game to play. Women always live longer.
By fucking, 13 years? Jesus.
That's not awesome.
Well, he died at 67. I feel like that may have been a little sudden.
Yeah.
Well, when she died, Fred Smith's estate got the manuscript back and published it in 1978. Rudyard Kipling's sister, Trix, lived a full life in Edinburgh and was a member of the Edinburgh Psychic College, as she believed that she could see and communicate with ghosts from a young age. Not a whole lot other to say about that.
There's a psychic college? Is it still around? That's fucking amazing.
I hope not. God, what a fucking scam.
Fucking school of bullshit artistry. That's amazing.
We're going to start now by talking about what your past lives were. Oh, that's crazy. It's a classroom full of all famous people. Wow. Neat. How weird. Nobody is ever a fucking shit shoveler, you know? Anyway, she died in 1948 at
the classroom is them all just staring at each other.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm the main character. Yeah. The Kipling home outside of Brattleboro, Vermont, the one he called Nalaka, became a national landmark in 1993 and can actually be rented. I don't know if it's on Airbnb or what, but it still has a bunch of Kipling's personal shit in there. Their other home, Bateman's, was left to the National Trust after Carrie's death. It retains all the shit they left behind, including Rudyard's Rolls-Royce Phantom 1, which is a slick-looking fucking car when I looked it up. Here, look at this thing.
Just hit the button.
Look at that fucking thing.
Yeah, it looks like a PT Cruiser.
Fuck you. That's a nice-looking car.
It looks silly. It looks like what the Penguin would drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I would drive. But anyway... when automobiles became a thing, Kipling actually
motherfuckers say cars.
Whatever. So he became super fucking excited about them. Apparently, he couldn't drive, but he just had people take him on rides like a golden retriever. Drive my nice car. Oh, fucking yeah, dude. Cool.
Right,
you want to get in the front seat?
Okay.
No. Roll down the window.
You're just too old. No, I just can't use the clutch.
Open the door for me. The child lock is on. And now we must discuss Caleb's favorite corporation, Disney. Yes, there was a 1942 live-action film that was
abrupt.
That was made first. But what's most famous is the 1967 Disney adaptation of The Jungle Book.
The animated, the cartoon,
yeah.
Yeah.
While working on the 1963 film The Sword in the Stone, Walt Disney's animation department came up to him and told him that they could do a real number with more interesting animal characters besides just the wolf and that hot fucking squirrel from The Sword in the Stone.
Hot squirrel?
Clearly.
I don't remember this hot squirrel.
Clearly you don't, yeah. You'd remember.
You fucking furry, look at me.
Well, little did they know that...
Don't change the fucking subject.
No.
All right, come on.
Well, little did they know that just a year previous, in April of 1962, Disney had acquired the rights to Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. Bill Peet, one of Disney's most trusted and loyal animators, left the company soon after heading the project. The reason being that he had read the source material, and the source material is fucking dark. No matter how much Disney tried to steer him away from dancing upon tiger corpses and trampling animals to death, the guy just couldn't do it. Turns out that every animator Disney wanted to head the project would try to actually adapt the story to screen. And it would, without fail, end up too dark for a kid's movie. So when Walt finally landed on animator Larry Clemens, he handed him a copy of Kipling's book and told him, quote, "The first thing I want you to do is not read it." Of course, Clemens still did.
Don't hand me the book. Don't hand him the fucking book.
Well, he still read it, and he had some ideas.
What's the source material? Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Walt stopped him, basically, from going too far, and he said, let's establish the characters. Let's have fun with it. Like, don't worry about the story. Fuck it. Let's just do our own Disney thing, you know? And they did. The orangutan, King Louie, he isn't part of the original book, nor are the vultures that are supposed to be the Beatles. And the story in general is more or less an outline of the source material, not a faithful adaptation. This would actually be the last film with Walt Disney's fingerprints on it, as he released the movie in 1967, but he died in late 66. Nowadays, as of 2019 at least, the Disney Plus app will open a disclaimer when starting the 1967 films, saying, "This program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together."
What was the bad shit in Jungle Book?
Well, they are, of course, talking about the character of King Louie, who has been a poster child of racist caricatures towards African Americans ever since he hit the screen. He's a big orangutan.
I barely remember Jungle Book.
Yeah.
I don't remember the racist.
However, what's funny...
The racist orangutan.
Well, what's funny about this is that the studio originally wanted Louis Armstrong to be the voice of King Louie back then, but they didn't pursue it because they knew that would be wrong. They didn't do that. He's actually not a racist.
What's funny is, like, if we're thinking about it this much, maybe pull the character.
I know.
Like...
Well, and that's the thing, is that when you actually go back and like rewatch it and shit, it's not a racist caricature. It's not. It is literally an orangutan, and people did think that since they called him King Louie, it was Louis Armstrong, and that's where that connotation comes from, but that's not it at all. They needed a monkey character, so there's no way it wouldn't have been misappropriated either way. So I actually don't fault Disney for that one necessarily. They got an Italian guy to voice King Louie instead, which is
not
fine.
for that one.
Yeah, which is fine because, as Caleb says,
you still made those crows, motherfucker.
Yeah, because I mean, as Caleb says, you know, the Italians are nothing but a bunch of apes anyway. You know, that's a favorite of yours to always.
You can really say whatever you want about white people.
Ooh, but the food is good. I don't know if they're true white.
I mean, I enjoy a cheeseburger.
There was a direct sequel to Disney's Jungle Book in 2003 with Haley Joel Osment as Mowgli, John Goodman as Baloo.
Did anyone watch that shit?
No. And Phil Collins as a vulture for some reason. And just like the first film, it had nothing to do with the source material.
Get the fuck out of here, Phil Collins.
But they did have a remix of I Wanna Be Like You. You know, I Wanna Be Like You.
Yeah.
That's the King Louie song. They did have a remix of that song done in the sequel, done by Smash Mouth. So
I know how to fix racism. Bring in Smash Mouth. What?
Damn it, champions of the world.
Should we maybe drop this because it got controversial? Smash Mouth.
Fuck, he's got a good point.
Damn, that would be.
I want to say it wasn't Shrek 2001. So this came out in like 2003. So they were
wait.
The sequel was in 2003.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So they probably were like, fuck, man, Smash Mouth is hot right now 2 years ago. Let's...
Smash Mouth fixes racism.
Yeah. The 2016 live-action one by Jon Favreau is apparently pretty good, though. Didn't watch it.
Yeah, no one watched that.
Nobody cares. But more of an adaptation to the 1967 film than the original source material, apparently. But... there was also a 1989 anime called Jungle Book Shonen Mowgli. And in 2011, Putin quoted one of the Soviet cartoon adaptations that ran in the 1960s when someone was talking about outside financing.
Maybe not great to say the title like that. I don't know.
What?
Never mind. Go on.
In an Akira Kurosawa voice?
I don't know.
When someone was talking about outside financing to Russia, Putin said, "Come closer to me, Banderlogs." Which in this case, he was quoting an episode in which a python says those exact words to a bunch of monkeys he's about to eat. There's nothing that guy does that doesn't sound villainous. Now, while Kipling today is a known racist and imperialist, his flaws are often overlooked as like a, come on, those were the times. And honestly, to a certain degree, I understand why people want that to be true. He really is a terrific author, and although sketchy at first, eventually became a very good poet. In fact, while he was racist, he didn't believe in things like slavery and apartheid. He fully welcomed races to coexist in the same space, but race mixing was still off the table.
Yeah, no, Jordan, this guy's a piece of shit, man.
No, he is. I'm just outlining the do's and don'ts, you know?
I mean, yeah, I mean...
Well, like to him, the only reason white men had to carry that burden wasn't because we're smarter than other races, but because...
It's implied, Jordan.
But but because we just happen to have better technology. He even said as much. He was like, oh, they're uneducated. It was still a racist
That's
thing.
saying they're not as smart.
I mean, like, the ability, you know? I'm not covering for him. He's still an asshole.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. But you have to remember, at no time in history was it okay to be an asshole. There were people during the slave days of America that were staunch abolitionists. You don't just look at a slave owner and say, well, everyone was doing it. No, Kipling was a bastard. He's the reason his son is dead. But generally speaking, his flaws are overlooked, especially in England. And they would be in India too, had Kipling not been found to have donated $10 to Colonel Reginald Dyer's campaign, about $500 today. You see, in 1919, after it was found that the British government would continue to enact as a dictatorship over the people, and I'm not just talking about the British rule and government, by the way, I mean ghosting citizens and being in prison forever without a trial. Like after World War I, India was like, hey man, we all just fought in a really fucked up thing. How about, you know, we govern ourselves? And they were like, you know what? Let's take a couple years to think about it. No, you know, thousands of people took to the town square of Amritsar for a peaceful protest. Colonel Dyer ordered 50 men to fire on those thousands of people. When some of the soldiers first fired in the air, he said, quote, "Fire low. What have I brought you here for?" Would have used tanks too, but he couldn't squeeze them through the alley. They fired continuously for over 10 minutes, killing around 1,000 people. Gandhi was there. So yeah, once it was found out that Kipling donated $500 to that guy a year after the massacre and called Dyer, quote, "the man who saved India," turns out people don't like Kipling over there.
Weird.
My sources today: The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling, Puffin Classics 2015. Kim by Rudyard Kipling, Reader's Digest 1990. Rudyard Kipling by Kingsley Amis, Thames and Hudson Inc., 1986, and Wikipedia. It's kind of a sketchy one.
You proud of yourself?
In what way?
That's a very simple fucking question, Jordan.
I'm always proud of myself.
Okay. All right. Well, see you guys in 2 weeks.